Okay, in this video we're going to talk about fat. There's a lot to say, but I'll try to boil it down and keep it simple. Basically, I want to break it up into two different categories. We have fat as the nutrient or macronutrient, which is what we would eat, and then there's fat as it exists as cells and storage in our body. So let's look at the nutrient first. The first thing to know is it is an essential nutrient, like protein. We can't live without it, right? So remember, protein and fats are essential. Carbohydrates are non-essential. It's also our slowest form of energy. So as far as blood sugar goes, it's going to create the slowest and most steady rise and decline in blood sugar, which makes it a great source of energy if we don't need that sort of quick energy, that high intensity. And if you remember, that's best done with carbohydrates. So fat is not an enemy as far as nutrition is concerned. Because of that slow rise in blood sugar, it's less likely to be deposited as storage in the body, right? We're able to slowly burn those calories and utilize it as it enters our body. The only thing to be aware of is it has a little bit over twice as many calories per gram. So instead of 4 calories per gram, it has 9 calories per gram. So it is a very dense nutrient, and so you have to be careful with the quantity because it's easy or easier to kind of go overboard in that sense. The other thing I want to talk about is the quality of your fats. So it's really important to get good quality fats, and that would be the sources like avocado, olive oil. You could even go like coconut oil, different things like that, and avoiding those canola oils, trans fats, that have been broken down, right? Those are more dangerous because fat, again, being essential, is a big part of our brain and the cell membrane in every cell of our body. So every cell of our body has this sort of wall around it, right? And that membrane allows items to pass in and out. It holds different receptors, right? It's a very, very important part of each individual cell in our body. And when we eat fat, the lipids or the pieces of that fat particle basically get broken down and go into our brain and our cells to create those membranes. And the brain is mostly fat, so you can see how important and how vital the source of fat would be. It'd be like building a house with toothpicks versus 2x4s, right? The quality of your building materials makes a big impact on the health and the structure of whatever it is you're building. So that's fat as a nutrient. Again, there's lots of ways to figure out the healthy sources of fat, so we won't go into that. I'll try to post some of those below and create a worksheet for that. But as far as storage, I like to think of the fat stores or the fat cells in our body sort of as a bank, right? We have this ability that's evolved in us over many years to store energy, right? There used to be a time when we didn't always have quick access to food, and so we needed to be able to store it. So if you put in more calories, in this case, than you burned, you would store that excess in your bank or your fat cells, right? And over time, you could build it up so that when you had a time of famine, you could slowly withdraw from that. So right now, we have access to food anytime we want, so we really want to keep a low balance in that bank where we're constantly putting in and taking out at the same rate, so we're not storing up all these fat cells. So those, because of that desire to hold on to that for, the winter or a famine, those fat cells are kind of protected, so we have to learn to tap into those cells in order to make those withdrawals. I also wanted to go into visceral versus subcutaneous fat. Visceral is the deep fat. It's the fat that surrounds our organs. So we need that, right, for protection and padding, but too much of that, that is actually the fat that is the most detrimental to our health. That's the fat that's most associated with different diseases. And it's the subcutaneous fat, which is under the skin, that we often see, right? That's what we're seeing if we don't, or that's what is covering our six-pack. That's what's covering our muscle definition, and that's often the fat that aesthetically we want to get rid of. So those are the two types of fat. Again, both are essential. We need some fat on our body, right, in order to provide just that padding, that protection, and lubrication for our body. But we don't want an excess. And if you're, looking at which one is more harmful in excess, it's the visceral. And one last thing, as far as toxins are related, again, the fat is this storage cell, and oftentimes it'll be used to protect our body from different toxic chemicals that have come in. And so if you are constantly being exposed to environmental toxins or consuming toxins in your food, it's going to be really hard to make withdrawals from your bank of fat cells, because the fat is holding on and protecting you from those toxins, and so it doesn't want to let go. It doesn't want that to be released into your body. So we have to eliminate the source of toxins, and you can have different ways of detoxifying the body, which we'll go into in more detail in the future. But again, so fat, we want to separate into its components as a nutrient and as a storage vesicle. As a nutrient, it's essential. As storage, it's also essential. We just don't want an excess of either. So I hope that was helpful, and we'll see you in the next video.